Something is happening inside Iran right now, and it's not what most people expected. There are no missiles lighting up the sky, no large-scale invasion, no dramatic battlefield footage, but despite that, the system itself is beginning to crack. Oil, the backbone of Iran's entire economy, is quietly turning into its biggest weakness. Storage is filling up, revenue is drying out, and the clock is ticking faster than anyone predicted. At the same time, people are lining up for basic food. Security forces are going unpaid, and deep inside the power structure, a silent battle is unfolding between political leaders and military command. But this is where things get even more serious, because this isn't just an economic crisis, it's a chain reaction. And if it continues, it could trigger something far bigger, not just inside Iran, but across the entire region. So the real question is this just temporary pressure or the early stages of a full system collapse? To understand what's happening, we need to start with one critical factor: oil. Iran's economy depends heavily on oil exports. It's the main source of foreign currency, government funding, and national stability. But now, that entire system is under pressure. Recent data suggests that Iran's oil storage capacity, both on land and at sea, is reaching its limits. Tankers are no longer just transporting oil. They're being used as floating storage units. This is not normal. In the energy industry, this is considered an emergency move, a way to delay a system shutdown. But here's the problem. That delay doesn't last forever. Analysts estimate that this temporary storage strategy only buys a few weeks, roughly between 2 to 6 weeks, before capacity runs out completely. And when that happens, production cannot continue. But this is where things changed. Shutting down oil production isn't simple. It's not like turning off a switch. Once pressure inside oil wells is disrupted, restarting them later requires massive investment and technical effort. So Iran faces a dangerous dilemma: keep producing and risk system overload, or stop production and lose its main source of income. And this is where the strategy from outside becomes critical. Instead of launching direct military strikes, the United States has focused on economic pressure, particularly around key maritime routes like the Strait of Hormuz. This approach doesn't create immediate explosions, but it creates something slower and potentially more damaging: financial isolation. Foreign currency inflow begins to shrink, trade becomes restricted, and over time, the entire system starts to feel the pressure. And this is where the consequences begin to show. Iran's inflation rate has surged dramatically, reaching extreme levels. Millions of people have reportedly lost jobs. Basic goods are becoming harder to afford. In some cases, even essential food items cost a significant portion of a worker's income. To cope, the government has started distributing limited food support, a sign that the crisis is no longer hidden. But the real impact isn't just economic, it's psychological. Because when daily life becomes unstable, public frustration begins to grow, and that frustration doesn't stay quiet forever. But what's happening on the streets is only part of the story. Behind the scenes, the real tension is building inside the system itself. And this is where things become even more complex, because Iran's leadership is not acting as a single unified force. There are divisions. On one side, civilian leaders are trying to manage the situation, keeping diplomatic options open, looking for ways to reduce pressure. On the other side, powerful military elements, particularly within the IRGC, are taking a much harder stance, and this is where the strategy becomes clear. Actions taken by military forces have, at times, directly contradicted diplomatic efforts. For example, moves that could ease tension in critical areas have instead been followed by aggressive actions that increase pressure. This creates confusion, not just internationally, but internally. And it raises an important question: who is actually in control? But the real impact came later, because this internal division is happening at the worst possible moment. Financial pressure is already building, and now the system's decision-making is becoming unstable. At the same time, the economic strain is starting to hit the security structure, the very backbone of the regime. Reports indicate delays in salary payments to police and military personnel, and this is critical because loyalty in any system depends not just on ideology, but on stability. If people are not paid, if their families are struggling, then maintaining discipline becomes much harder. And this is where analysts start to worry, because history shows a clear pattern. When a state cannot sustain its security forces financially, cracks begin to form from within. And this is where things changed again. Reports suggest increasing cases of desertion and weakening command structures, not necessarily large-scale collapse yet, but early signs of strain, and this strain spreads quickly because once confidence drops, uncertainty spreads through every level, from soldiers on the ground to officials at the top. Meanwhile, the government is also dealing with external pressure. Global markets are reacting, energy prices are shifting, supply chains are being affected, but despite these costs, the external strategy appears consistent. Maintain pressure. Wait. Let time do the work. And this is what makes the situation so unusual. There's no immediate explosion, no sudden collapse, just a slow, tightening pressure that keeps building day by day. So, where does this lead? If current trends continue, the impact could be significant. First, the oil system itself could reach a breaking point. When storage fills completely, production may be forced to stop. That means no revenue, no foreign currency, and immediate pressure on government operations. Second, the economic impact on daily life could intensify. Higher prices, limited access to goods, growing frustration, and this is where social pressure builds. But the most critical factor is internal stability, because if financial strain continues to affect security forces, if internal divisions deepen, then the system faces a different kind of risk, not external attack, but internal weakening. And this is where the future becomes uncertain, because multiple scenarios are possible: gradual stabilization through diplomacy, continued pressure leading to deeper crisis, or internal shifts within the power structure itself. And what happens next doesn't just affect Iran. It affects global energy markets, regional alliances, and geopolitical balance. Because when a major regional power faces instability, the effects rarely stay contained. So as this situation develops over the coming weeks, one thing becomes clear. This is no longer just an economic issue. It's a test of resilience, a test of control, and possibly a turning point that could reshape the region.